Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
These are important videos I picked out just for you. I believe are important for everyone to see. We all know Vice President Al Gore in the 90s with the presidency of Bill Clinton. The most knowledgeable person on climate change I know, other than regular scientists themselves.
As we have seen in the past few months, the climate movement in the United States is under attack. It is abundantly clear after only 3 months and 1 day that the new Trump administration is attempting to do everything it possibly can to try to halt the transition to a clean energy future and a deep reduction in the burning of fossil fuels. Climate crisis is a fossil fuel crisis, basically 80% of it.
We here do not support the Trump presidency, so those that are can move on from here.
Many of you here today have likely felt the chilling effect of the policies and the rhetoric coming from Washington, D.C., and what the effect has been on businesses and investors and far beyond.
We all are going through the time of BS about climate change by the people who continue to want to make money by polluting the planet, just like they did in the 80s with cigarettes, and how it's not bad for our health.
The Trump administration is insisting on trying to create their own preferred version of reality. They say the climate crisis is a hoax invented by the Chinese to destroy American manufacturing. They say coal is clean. They say wind turbines cause cancer. They say sea level rise just creates more beachfront property. Their allies in the oligarchic backlash to climate action argue that those who want to stop using the sky as an open sewer, for God's sake, need to be more realistic and acquiesce to the huge increases in the burning of more and more fossil fuels, which is what they're pushing, even though that is the principal cause of the climate crisis. You may not be surprised to learn that this propagandistic notion of climate realism is one that the fossil fuel industry has peddled for years. The CEO of the largest oil company in the world, Saudi Aramco, has said, quote, "We should abandon the fantasy of phasing out oil and gas." His colleague, Exxon CEO Darren Woods, has claimed, and I quote, "The world needs to get real. The problem is not oil and gas, it's emissions."
All the oligarchs continue so they can keep making their profits is all it's really about. So we have to take charge ourselves and do something about this. These videos I post here are videos I hope you watch to inform you of their importance and why I'm doing what I'm doing here.
The sustainability revolution is powering more and more of our global economy. It has the scale and impact of the Industrial Revolution, and it's moving at the pace of the digital revolution.
I am a big believer in renewables since my 7th grade science project in my 64-65 school year.
By the way, in Texas, which used to have a free market for energy, over 90% of all their new electricity generation last year was solar and wind. And you know, they've got captured politicians there. They're pushing legislation in Texas to legally require any developers of solar and wind to spend time and money developing more oil and gas before they're given permission to develop renewables. That's not realism. That's pathetic. That is a sign of desperation. They don't trust the free market. They're just relying more and more on the politicians who will jump when they tell them jump and ask how high when they tell them to jump again. So around the world, the market is transforming. Since the Paris Agreement, the cost of solar has dropped 76%. The cost of wind is down 66%. Utility scale batteries are down 87%. In 2004, when Generation was founded, it took a full year for the world to install 1 gigawatt of solar power. Now it takes 1 hour to install 1 gigawatt of solar power.
People like myself, the baby boomers, it has been hidden from ourselves. just so the corporations could establish themselves as the profit makers and to take over the monies that were in the middle class at the time, which they've done very successfully. It used to be you could make a good life making $30,000 to $40,000 a year in those days of the 70s and 80s. Nowadays, it's double that, living in an apartment, not owning your own home in the suburbs as it was back then. Let's go back to the video now.
Is it realistic for us, all of us here, to consign our children and grandchildren to what scientists warn us would be hell on earth in order to conserve the profits of the fossil fuel industry? The predictions of the scientists 50 years ago have turned out to be spot on correct. Their predictions just a few decades ago have turned out to be exactly right. Should not that cause us to listen more carefully to what they're warning us will happen if we do not sharply and quickly reduce the emissions from burning fossil fuels? Is that unrealistic to listen to a proven source of advice? This newfound so-called climate realism is nothing more than climate denial in disguise. It is an attempt to pretend there's no problem and to ignore the reality that is right in front of our faces. What's never present in this so-called realism is any credible challenge whatsoever to the conclusions of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. They never address that. They just wish it away and say, oh, it's unrealistic to actually do anything about it. I wish we could wish it away, but we cannot. And the solution is what you're doing here in Climate Week here in San Francisco. We have got to rise up and change this situation. We need you. This is the time. This is a break glass moment. This is an all hands on deck moment. And now is the time to look at every aspect of your businesses, your investments, and your civic engagement to determine whether or not you can contribute even more to solving the climate crisis. It's easy to adopt our own versions of climate realism, to say that the challenge is too great. Some people worry about that. To say that our individual role is too small to have an impact. Some use that as an excuse, that if the government won't act, what can any of us do about it? Well, just as the climate crisis does not recognize borders between countries, it does not either recognize delineations between the duty of government and businesses and all significant participants in the global economy. Climate change is already impacting your life and work, and will more so through disrupted supply chains, increased liability, changes in consumer demand, and more. This is a moment when we all have to mobilize to defend our country. And remember, the antidote to climate despair is climate action. It was in this city in the 1960s that Joan Baez first said that the antidote to despair is action. And we need to remember that now. And during a time of when people were tempted to despair in the struggle for civil rights in this country, Martin Luther King said something about overcoming the forces that try to discourage you and halt progress. He said this: if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. And that's where we are. And every one of the morally based movements in the past had periods when advocates felt despair. But when the central choice was revealed as a choice between right and wrong, then the outcome at a very deep level became foreordained. Because of the way Pope Francis reminded us we have been created as God's children. We love our families. We are devoted to our communities. We have to protect our future. And if you doubt for one moment ever that we as human beings have the capacity to muster sufficient political will to solve this crisis, just remember that political will is itself a renewable resource. Thank you very much.
So come along and join us and be a part of this. Become a 21st century citizen, and let's get together and see how we can make new lives. I'm going to try and make things better in this new city. Smaller homes, but nicer than what you usually see them. what someone needs to live a nice, comfortable life without working your ass off for what? I'm Gary G. Till next time, like and subscribe, and let's build a next-gen city for next-level living.